Hello there, and welcome back to another day where I have some free time. And in this development video of nobita.h, I would not be able to deliver on my promise on the last video that we would be developing this to support the prefix directory and a cache directory. But instead, I would like to correct the behavior of the dependency chain since um as the as has been said in the last video, where while it does rebuild the dependencies first, it does not rebuild the one that actually depends on it. For example, if the sample library changes in that was in test lib, I suppose, resave this and rerun build. While it does rebuild the library, it does not rebuild the executable that depends on it. And that's the behavior I want for this dependency chain. And another bug would be, yes, it did, while building this shared library version of libtest, it does not rebuild the static version since it would only rebuild if it knew, no, if while building the static library, it needed to rebuild the object file. And since that has already been done by the shared library, the static library has not been rebuilt. And that we also need to fix. So we need to start. Now let us start. So the main culprit for that would be build lib and build exe. But I kinda just want to merge these two functions now and just make it like build target. And after this, instead of having two dependency lists, one for executable and one for libraries, let's just merge them together. So in the definition of nobita target and nobita build, that should be changed. Just make that depths. And this is gonna cause a lot of errors for now, but that would be the design I want for here. Now the init functions would be angry. So add target instead of depexes, make that depths. And since there would only be um one list, well, we can just add that here instead. And make the main add target accept a nobita build struct. And pass that here. And the appends on these two, no, these three functions will not be needed anymore, since all this would do is just change the target type. And then what else that accesses depth? Oh, in here, that should just be 1, so this if statement can be removed. What else? In here, yeah, that can just be depths used, and in here as well. And then build.exe can be gone, can be removed. Here in main, change dep.lib and dep.exe, just deps in here as well. So you'll be removing another for loop. Instead of build.exe, that's build target. Just make this a small if statement. And in here, oops, make that depths, and this would not be needed anymore. Also, this if statement as well. And this should just take the index dependency. After that, when freeing, that's right, it's also depths now here inside the target, not just the build struct. And just free that once. Now we don't have much errors. Well, for now. Now in here, in build target, we would actually need to know if what we're building is an executable, shared library, or static library. Fortunately, we already have the target type. So we can keep the malloc here. Or maybe I can just do 3 branches of malloc so that the size would be perfect. Though having having extra bytes would encompass both the executable name and the library names. Yeah, maybe I'll just keep that there. So instead of an if-else statement, might be a bit better to just use a switch statement, since enums here are static constants and can be used in the case switches. So if it's an executable, well, just copy to name that the name of the target, and then get out of the case statement, and then add a shared lib case where it would copy lib first, concatenate the actual name and the extension .so. For the static library, same thing really, but instead of .so, it would be a, and that's it. No need for a default one, since the only one that can set the target type member of this track would be the init functions. That is handled by my implementation, not available to the user. And to actually address the rebuilding of the one who depends on the library. Oh, I have an idea. Just add another flag and say if it has been rebuilt. So the difference in here would be set if the build target has successfully executed, regardless of if it actually created any new files. And rebuild would say if it actually created new files. So while in here, if build target sees that the target has already been built, so build target has already been called on this, just return. And then instead of calling this relink, uh, maybe I can call this rebuild, since while in here, I'm planning to have build target set that rebuild member of Nobita target to true. Afterwards, if fork exec successfully executes. Though I have not initialized the rebuild struct member yet. So in add target, this would cause some problems later if it was not actually initialized. So that should be false. And go back to build target. Here in rebuild, and while the local rebuild is false, a small if statement, or was this a unary expression? I don't remember the term. But while that is false, it would check the dependencies, rebuild status, and when rebuild becomes true, well, it would always be true and does not need to be changed. Here as well, if any objects has been rebuilt, well, the main target would need to be rebuilt. And for some other reason, like the one with the shared and static library sharing the same files, so the object file for the shared library has been rebuilt, but the static library does not see that, so only one of them gets rebuilt to the final target. And that is a problem. So we can change this. Instead of just checking if the final target does not exist, huh? How should I do this again? Ah, no. If rebuild is still false, then that's fine, go to the end. But here I want a for loop that will check all of the object files. And it would set rebuild into if the object file, so t objects indexed with itself. Though this only needs to be executed if, of course, rebuild is false, and this struct stat is not needed. So hopefully this would set rebuild if it sees that its object files are newer than itself. And in here, that seems the same, but instead of an if statement, we'll be replacing that with another switch case. Since there's three now, and an if, else if, else statement kinda doesn't sit well with me. So in the shared library, add add that. The executable is almost the same, but it just does not take the shared lib opt. After that, the static library would use AR and the AR opts. All three of these use the name and objects, and only if if it's not a static library, both the executable and shared lib use the link flags. So that's that. But the null ender for this vector is needed by all three of them. So that's one hell of a bug that I've left since the last episode of this video. After that, just free the name. Well, let's try it. Rebuild. Okay, it rebuilt libtest, the static library. Though, it did not rebuild the main executable, which is weird. Well, let's try it for now and see if it would rebuild both the shared and static library. So resave and rerun. It did. Though for the executable, that makes me a bit sad. But actually, I have not set the build value. So regardless of any new file has been built, it shall become true when it hits the end. And after fork exec, when that happens, then new files has been rebuilt, so that can become true. Now after that, there are now new rules in there. So if I resave this, then all three, the shared library, the static library, and the executable would get rebuilt. So let's go. There we go. It rebuilt the executable now. Now that is my ideal dependency chain behavior. Now, how much time have I spent on this? Around 19 minutes. Maybe I can start planning for the prefix directory. So I want a function that would get the current working directory, and surprisingly it's called getCwd from the Unix standard. So that is fine, but do I need to allocate debuffer myself in here. Or maybe not. Let's see. An extension to the POSIX standard. It allocates it itself if the buffer is null and the size is 0. Okay, that is pretty nice. So now we have a way to get the root of the Git repo this would be used in. A- And I want a way to just append directories to each other. For example, if the prefix would be user, then I kind of want a function like dir append that would take /user and lib, and that would return /user/lib. That would make the prefix directories a bit easier. And if it's insensitive and just concatenates a new slash and the string provided to it, then maybe we can also that same dir append with with user, then the library, and the actual name of the target. So that would result in something like /user/lib stash libtest.so. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. Though would I be actually able to implement that with no bugs appearing? Now that I cannot guarantee. Guarantee. So let's see, let's see. Where should I put this? Maybe after is a newer. Though the only one that would use their append would be build target. So maybe just before build target. And in the spirit of get CWD, this thing appends its own memory. So let's just call it their append. Now before that, the local functions in here, maybe I should add a nobita prefix to that. Just for good practice, I guess. What else? D is a newer function. Then another local function would be build object. Though if I'm gonna be really honest, we can just inline this in here. So the index, just pi, and then remove build object. Though build target would be nobita build target. Wait a minute. Where did this come from? Yo, I'm not looking. I'm just doing this as fast as I can. But that is a shame. Okay, I remember what this is for now. This is from the rebuild target. No, it's rebuilding its dependencies. Oops. Oh my, how embarrassing. Okay, now do their append. And this would accept any amount of arguments, but yep, as expected, it wants a named argument first here. So let's just call that prefix. And that's supposed to be a an absolute path. So while in there, uh, it should get the length, the total length of all strings. So in here, an extra one for the last null character, and two if I want the prefix to just be a directory that does not end in a trailing slash. That would be added by myself, and the length would start with the length of prefix. Now then, it's time to start with standard argument. It's template, you could say. So start from prefix and end that. And while the argument is not equal to null, can just call va arg from va as a character pointer, actually define arg, wait, no, that should be done first. Get the variadic argument first, then add the length of that to arg, no, add the length of that to len, and surprisingly, that is that. Though in here, instead of just checking well it's not null, set that to true, and it would be somewhere around a post conditional. But if it's not null, Then add 1 to the length for the extra slash for the trailing slash. If it's null, then get out of the while loop. And then once more, restart the VA list. Maybe that has changed the data inside the struct after using VA argon it. But we'll be using the same while loop though. But instead of len, it would be a starcat to call that append, I guess, and allocate enough memory using len multiplied by the size of character. Assert that's not null. And maybe a more helpful error message would be cannot allocate memory for star concat. And if that succeeds, then the first character of append shall be a null character, since that's how starcat finds where to append the string. So append is the destination, arg is the source. So get the variadic argument, concatenate it, and no. Get the first arg, concatenate it, then get the second argument, then if that is not null, then we can concatenate another slash. But if I just do this without this if statement and just put the arg is not equal to null in here in the while condition, it would return something like if user is the prefix, then lib is the other argument ended by null, it would return such user such lib and a trailing slash. And that might cause problems later on. And I want the output of this dir append to be usable in dir append as well. So that would be the design here. And after that, just return append. Let's see. Well, it might complain that their append is not used, but that is fine. We have set the foundation for the prefix directory. Though mainly, this is not meant to be used to put executables and libraries in the root prefix directory in a machine. Just a local prefix. Something like a build folder inside the git root repo or something like that. So nothing new has been checked off inside the to-do list, but it's a start, and we're already past 30 minutes, so thank you for sticking with me this far, and surely in the next video, uh, we would actually be starting in supporting the prefix directory and a cache directory. And that is all. Thank you.